a view from 50 years later. For years, our church has been offering a combined pagan and Christian worship celebration. I think it's been at least 10 years and probably much more. It's been a challenge for me. On the face of it, the Wiccan celebration of winter solstice and the Christian celebration of Christmas seems like two quite different traditions trying to do the impossible. That is to honor each other's traditions and religious perspectives. The longer we do it, the more I find that it is an expression of the best of Unitarian Universalism. It's about honoring the one light that comes to us through many windows. It fast becomes obvious that our religious differences, our religious tradition and practices are mixed and drawn from many sources from each other's traditions. Within this congregation, there has been a growing perspective. Sometimes it's not been easy, but we've grown to understand and respect each other for the historic intermingling of traditions which have enriched us all. Yes, holy days can bring hope. There are a lot of beautiful stories about saints and sages. The central figures of various spiritual paths. At Christmas, Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, a Jew, who, when he became an adult, brought a whole new perspective on life and on human relationships. His life and his teachings opened a whole new way of life for those Jewish people who followed him. But they didn't all follow him. So the Christians went one way and the Jews went another. His own life was such a powerful witness that his followers created beautiful stories about how he came to be. Now understand, they weren't there. They didn't know. These were imaginings for them. And those stories are not unlike the stories about Gautama Buddha, Zarathustra, or Dionysus, to name a few. Love was the key, the central theme of his life and his message. Love of God. Love and respect for others, even one's enemies, and loving oneself. With this love came the willingness at least for some, to sacrifice life itself for the sake of others. When an exceptional person comes along, we want to hold them up in honor and respect. And when that person brings hope and healing to those whose lives they touch, we want to tell the world. If that person seems to embody all that we would hope, even in a divine being, surely we want others to hear and to know that person. And so it was with Jesus of Nazareth. The way he lived, the words he spoke, came together as few others. And as his followers looked back, they imagined that he must have had an exceptional birth like few other spiritual leaders. So, in the majestic story of Jesus' birth that Matthew tells, Jesus is seen as coming from a long line of Hebrew royalty. In fact, his birth is understood as being so much in that mood that he's visited by visiting kings. In contrast, the story I read from Luke saw Jesus as coming from a quite different background. This great and respected teacher, Jesus, seemed to come from humble beginnings, born to a poor family in a barn far from home. In either case, certainly God was at work in this man, in his birth. And what great teachings came from his lips in the Beatitudes, the stories of the Good Samaritan, the prodigal son, and many others. This Jesus not only spoke of love, he lived that love. Those whose lives are touched and transformed wanted to look back at his birth and to celebrate his coming into being. And what better time to celebrate than at the winter solstice, when in the northern hemisphere, at least, cold begins to give way to warmth, and darkness begins to give way to light. I'm not sure what we would do with that in the southern hemisphere, but that's not our issue. On Christmas, a holy day, hope comes in the infant of Bethlehem, the itinerant teacher from Nazareth. We will sing in return, in closing, We Believe in Christmas, hymn number 248.